The 37th floor of Hale Investments gleamed like something out of a magazine. Marble floors, silver accents, and glass walls that reflected power back at itself. By midnight, it was nearly silent. Only the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the rhythmic swish of mops broke the stillness. 16-year-old Maya Williams moved through the corridor with a bucket. A spray bottle and her mother's warning echoing in her mind. Don't talk to anyone. Don't touch anything you're not paid to clean. Maya usually didn't. Her mother, Denise, had worked these upper floors for 6 years. Quiet, invisible, efficient. But tonight, something strange tugged at Maya's curiosity. On the long conference table sat an open folder left in the copier tray. A thick one stamped final draft merge agreement, the kind of document everyone in suits treated like holy scripture. She hesitated, glancing toward the hallway. No one there. Her heart thudded once, twice. Then she stepped closer. Just a peek, she told herself. The pages were dense with legalese, but Maya had always had an odd fascination with business language. She read corporate policy manuals like novels. Her teachers called her too serious. Her classmates called her the dictionary. She called it being prepared. Her finger followed the lines until a strange paragraph caught her eye. Liability shall rest exclusively with Hale Investments in all post-merger circumstances. Maya frowned. Exclusively? She whispered. She flipped back and forth between pages, reading the section again. It didn't protect Hale Investments, it sacrificed it. Whoever signed this deal would be walking straight into a financial noose. She bit her lip. It could be a mistake, a typo. But deep down, she knew better. Her grandfather had once told her, "In business, traps are written in ink, not sprung in meetings." Down the hall, her mother's voice echoed. "Maya, finish up that floor. We're clocking out in 10. Maya snapped the folder shut but couldn't move. Every instinct screamed that she'd just seen something dangerous. Something deliberate. She ran to her mother, who was polishing a glass wall. Mom, this contract, look at this." Denise didn't glance up. "Maya, no. Put it back." "But it says they'd lose everything if they sign." Her mother sighed. "You want to get us both fired?" "That's how you do it. Go now." Maya hesitated. Her mother's tone left no room for argument. But the words on that page, "liability shall rest exclusively," clung to her thoughts like thorns. 8 hours later, that clause was about to destroy a company. The next morning, Jackson Hale, founder and CEO, stood at the head of the massive boardroom table, pen poised over the dotted line. He was calm, charming, and precise, the kind of man who built empires with a handshake and a spreadsheet. Across from him sat Derek Vaughn, all Texan charm and crocodile smile representing Vaughn Global, the firm merging with Hale Investments. Behind Derek, a row of executives waited with rehearsed grins. Beside Jackson sat his wife, Clara Hale, her elegance as sharp as her tone. Everything was ready, until the glass door creaked open. "Excuse me, sir?" The voice was soft but firm, carrying a nervous tremor that made everyone turn. A girl stood there, Maya, still in her faded hoodie and visitor's lanyard, sneakers squeaking against the marble. Jackson frowned. "Who let you in here?" I'm sorry, sir," she stammered. "But before you sign that, you should check the clause on page 14. The room went utterly still. Derek Vaughn blinked. Clara's expression iced over. Jackson's pen hovered midair. "What did you say?" Maya stepped forward, pointing toward the contract. "It flips the liability, sir. If you sign, your company takes the fall for any future fraud or default. Vaughn Global walks away clean." A few of the younger executives exchanged uneasy looks. One tapped on his tablet, scrolling to page 14. Clara rose from her seat, voice clipped. "She shouldn't even be here. She's the janitor's daughter." Maya flinched but didn't move back. "I read it twice," she said quietly. "It's disguised in legal phrasing, exclusive liability and unconditional indemnification. But it means if something goes wrong, you pay for everything." Derek chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "That's a big claim, sweetheart." "You a lawyer?" "No, sir," she said. "Just someone who reads carefully." The laughter died quickly when one of Jackson's analysts murmured, "She's right, sir. It's all here. The liability clause does shift everything to us." Jackson's hand froze. He turned a page, his brow furrowing. The text looked ordinary, until you read it slowly. And then it screamed, his jaw tightened. "Who drafted this version?" Vaughn's legal team, Clara answered quickly. It's a standard clause. No, Jackson said. It's not. The air thickened. Derek's easy smile didn't reach his eyes now. Mr. Hale, with all respect, this is being blown out of proportion. I assure you, assure me? Jackson interrupted, voice suddenly steel. You tried to hand me a trap in my own boardroom. Derek's grin faltered. Maya stood frozen at the doorway, chest heaving, unsure if she'd just saved a company or destroyed her future. Jackson looked at her, really looked. The hoodie, the lanyard, the nervous courage in her eyes. What's your name? Maya Williams. How old are you? 16. And you saw this how? I was cleaning last night, she said. It was in the copier tray. A pause. Then Jackson nodded once. Security, he said quietly. Escort Mr. Vaughn and his associates out. The room erupted in whispers. Derek stood, his smile gone now. This isn't over. No, Jackson replied coldly. It's not. As the men left, Maya's knees felt weak. She turned to leave too, but Jackson's voice stopped her. Wait. He studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he said, You just saved me from a disaster worth billions. Maya swallowed hard. I wasn't trying to... I know. He nodded toward the hallway. But you did anyway. 2 hours later, Maya sat in a security office downstairs, hands clasped in her lap. Her mother sat beside her, silent, lips pressed into a tight line. Denise finally spoke, her voice flat. You should be ashamed. Maya looked down. I didn't mean to embarrass you. You walked into a boardroom full of executives and told them they were wrong, Denise said. Do you know how that looks? It looks like I stopped a bad deal, Maya murmured. Her mother exhaled, tired. I raised you to be brave, Maya, but I didn't raise you to be reckless. The door opened. A woman from HR stepped in, clipboard in hand. Mrs. Williams, your employment is under review. We'll be in touch. They walked out into the cold Chicago air without speaking. Maya glanced back once at the gleaming tower. The building still looked powerful, untouchable, but she knew better now. Empires didn't fall from earthquakes. They cracked from the inside. That night on the top floor, Jackson sat alone in his private office. The unsigned contract lay before him like evidence from a crime scene. He traced the line Maya had pointed out. Subparagraph C, line 3. She was right. Every word of it. The clause was crafted to appear harmless. Risk reallocation, limited liability. But it was poison in ink. He leaned back, rubbing his temple. How did I miss this? On his desk lay a framed photo of him and Clara at a gala, smiling, perfect, untouchable. The phone rang. Clara? He hesitated, then answered. You didn't sign it, did you? She asked. No, he said. You're overreacting, she snapped. Derek's firm is solid. You're letting that girl get in your head. She saw what none of us did. Jackson, she's 16, and yet she caught something your legal team missed. There was a long silence. Then, too smoothly, Clara said, We'll talk at home. Across the city, Maya sat at their small kitchen table, a mug of cocoa untouched. Her mother flipped through job listings on her phone. Do you regret it? Maya asked quietly. Denise sighed. I regret that you thought grown-ups needed saving. Maya didn't answer, but inside something burned brighter. Certainty. Her phone buzzed. A new email. Unknown sender. Subject, you saw it too. Maya frowned and opened it. I used to work at Hale Investments. You were right about the clause. If you're willing to talk, I'll listen. Robert Barnes, her heart pounded. She typed back, Who are you? The reply came within minutes. Someone who didn't stay quiet soon enough. Later that night, Jackson opened his safe. Inside was a file labeled Hale Internal, Barnes Review. He flipped through it. Risk reports. Audit notes. One line in red pen jumped out. If they plant one signature trap, we're done. R. Barnes. Jackson froze. Barnes. The same man who'd warned them 2 years ago and been quietly dismissed after disagreements with Clara. The realization hit hard. The trap wasn't just corporate. It was personal. Somewhere across town, Derek Vaughn sipped whiskey in a quiet lounge. Across from him sat Clara Hale, elegant, composed, smiling like nothing had gone wrong. You said he'd sign, Derek said flatly. He almost did, Clara replied. Until the janitor's kid played detective. Derek smirked. Then we'll just have to adjust. She leaned in close. He's starting to dig. Derek's voice was low and cold. Then we bury him before he reaches the roots. Back in her apartment, Maya's phone pinged again. Another message from Barnes. Be careful who you trust. The clause wasn't an accident, it's part of a pattern. 3 mergers, 3 collapses. Same language every time. She stared at the screen, her reflection caught in the glow. 3 mergers, same clause, it wasn't just a trap. It was a system, and somehow she had just stepped right into the middle of it. The city didn't sleep that night. Not really. Under Chicago's orange-lit skyline, 3 people lay awake in different corners of the same story. Jackson Hale, staring at the contract that almost destroyed him. Maya Williams, scrolling through encrypted files from a stranger named Robert Barnes. And Clara Hale, whispering into the dark with the man who had written the trap. Each of them knew morning would bring a reckoning. The email chain at 2:14 a.m., Maya's screen flickered as a new folder finished downloading. Inside, dozens of PDFs, audit reports, and transaction records. Barnes had labeled them simply, proof. Maya clicked one open. A line of figures stretched across the screen. Payment routes between Vaughn Global and something called Ravencross Holdings. Shell accounts. Cayman Islands, Zurich. The same wording appeared again and again, contingent liability transfer. She didn't know every term, but she knew corruption when she saw it. And buried in one file was a familiar name, Clara Hale. Maya sat back stunned. His wife, her phone buzzed. A text from Barnes. You were right. She's involved. Be careful. They watch everything. Before she could reply, the message self-deleted. A CEO wakes up sunlight hit the 48th floor in pale slants. Jackson Hale hadn't moved from his desk. The contract lay open, surrounded by coffee cups and cross-referenced files. He'd spent the whole night tracing clauses, connecting dots. Each document led to another company name, another offshore trail. At 7 a.m., his intercom buzzed. Sir, said his assistant, Mrs. Hale is here. Send her in. Clara entered like she always did, confident, composed, her perfume preceding her. You look terrible, she said lightly. Didn't sleep? He didn't answer. Instead, he slid the contract toward her. Explain this. Clara glanced at the page, unfazed. It's a liability clause, Jackson. We've been over this. It's a trap, he said. Hidden phrasing. Barnes warned us about this pattern years ago. Her expression didn't change. You fired Barnes, remember? I didn't, you did. A long silence, then she smiled, under slow measured. So now you're trusting a janitor's daughter and a disgruntled ex-employee over your own wife? Jackson leaned forward, voice low. I'm trusting my eyes, and I'm asking myself why your name appears on a Ravencross account in Zurich. Her hand twitched. Just slightly, that's ridiculous, she said, standing. I don't have to listen to... Sit down. It wasn't a request. Clara froze, then straightened her spine. You're spiraling, Jackson. Maybe you should take some time off before you destroy the company you built. He stared at her, realizing for the first time that he didn't know this woman at all. When she finally turned and walked out, his reflection in the glass caught the ghost of a smile fading from her lips. A call in the alley Maya met Barnes 2 days later behind a crowded cafe in the Loop. He was older than she expected, late 40s, rumpled coat, eyes that never stopped scanning. You shouldn't have come, he said, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. You asked me to, she replied. He looked at her for a moment, then nodded. You're brave. Stupid, but brave. Tell me what they're doing. Barnes pulled a thumb drive from his pocket. 3 mergers in 5 years. All same pattern. Vaughn Global plants a clause that shifts liability. Partner company collapses. Assets get sold cheap to a shell firm, Ravencross. Then Clara Hale and Vaughn split the profits offshore. Maya's stomach turned. She's been helping him steal from her husband. Barnes nodded. And anyone who notices ends up blacklisted. Or worse. Why are you helping me? He hesitated. Because I helped write the first clause, and I've been trying to make it right ever since. A car horn blared. He flinched, eyes darting toward the street. I have to go. Don't contact me again. If they know we met, we're both finished. He pressed the drive into her hand and disappeared into the crowd. Crossed lines that evening. Jackson sat in the bar of the Meridian Hotel, the one Clara favored for business dinners. From his corner booth, he watched her across the room, She wasn't alone. Derek Vaughn sat opposite her, relaxed, laughing softly. Between them on the table, a flash drive. Jackson's pulse pounded in his ears. Clara reached across, touched Derek's wrist, smiled the smile she used to save for him. Jackson turned away, bile rising. He left before they saw him, fury giving way to something colder. Focus. When he returned to his office, a message was waiting from an unknown number. 4 words, she's moving the money. He called his bank. They confirmed an attempted transfer, $2.5 million from a dormant reserve account to an offshore trust. Blocked just in time. Jackson sank into his chair, the weight of betrayal finally solid. His wife wasn't just complicit, she was leading it. The break-in at dawn, Maya's apartment door rattled. She jumped. When she opened it, a plain envelope slid under the frame. Inside, a single note in hurried handwriting. They know, leave Chicago. Her blood ran cold. She looked out into the hall. Empty. She turned to her mother, who had woken at the noise. What's going on, Maya? I think I started something I can't stop. Denise grabbed her shoulders. You go to school, you help me clean. That's your life, not whatever this is. I can't ignore it now, Maya whispered. They're stealing from everyone, even him. Her mother's eyes softened. Then be smart. Truth means nothing if you don't live long enough to tell it. 6. The meeting later that day, Jackson reached out through an encrypted channel he found in Barnes's old files. The reply came with a simple directive. Meet Victoria Chan. 8 p.m. Old courthouse parking lot. Victoria. Chan was a name whispered in legal circles. A civil rights attorney who made corporate giants nervous. When she slid into Jackson's car that night, she wasted no time. You've got a fraud case that smells like racketeering, she said. And I hear there's a 16-year-old who saw it first. Jackson nodded. Maya Williams. Smartest person in my building. Then she's our key witness, Victoria said. But we need to protect her. If Vaughn knows she's involved, she's in danger. He nodded grimly. They already know. The return. The next morning, Maya stood outside Hale Tower clutching a folder. The thumb drive. Her notes. The truth. Security hesitated until one of the junior analysts whispered. Mr. Hale said if she ever came back, bring her up. When Jackson saw her, something inside him eased. You shouldn't have to do this, he said. I already did, she replied. Now we finish it. They sat together in his private conference room, screens and papers spread across the table like battle plans. Victoria joined them minutes later, calm and sharp. This is your war, she said, nodding at Maya. But with the right moves, we win before they know we're fighting. Maya met her gaze, fear mixing with resolve. Then let's start fighting. And cracks in the glass the next week turned the skyscraper into a pressure cooker. Legal teams whispered behind closed doors. IT flagged strange logins. The word whistleblower began floating around. Maya worked quietly beside Victoria, cross-checking documents, building timelines. One night as she left the building, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Stop digging or we dig first. Her hand shook, but she didn't stop walking. Inside, Jackson watched from his office window, guilt twisting in his chest. He had dragged a child into his war, but then he remembered the way she'd stood in his boardroom, small, scared, and unshakable. No, she hadn't been dragged. She had led him here. The gala, the Hale Foundation Gala, glittered like every year, chandeliers, champagne, and perfectly rehearsed smiles. But this time the host had a different speech. Jackson took the stage. Cameras flashed. Tonight, he began, we were meant to celebrate another year of success. But success without integrity is failure in disguise. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Clara froze beside the champagne table. I built this company on trust, Jackson continued. And one young woman reminded me that trust means nothing without truth. He didn't name her. He didn't have to. Clara's fingers tightened around her glass. Knee. The leverage hours later, in a quiet cafe across town, Clara sat opposite Derek Vaughn, fury flickering beneath her calm. He's not backing down, she said. Derek stirred his drink. Then we remind him who holds the power. He slid a black folder across the table. Photos, names, contact lists. Reporters, judges, one clerk at the federal court, he said. We bury him before he drags us down. Clara closed the folder slowly. Do it! Across the street from the window of a passing bus, Maya watched them. Her phone camera captured every frame. The shift by Monday, Hale Investments no longer looked like a fortress. Departments whispered. Executives resigned quietly. IT servers crashed for maintenance. But within Jackson's office, a different kind of work began. Whiteboards covered every wall, timelines, bank routes, corporate shells. At the center sat Maya, tapping on her borrowed laptop. Eyes steady. This is bigger than a bad merger, Victoria said, scanning a file. It's systemic fraud, laundering disguised as liability. Jackson exhaled. And it started under my own roof. Maya handed him the final folder from Barnes's drive. 3 names circled in red: Clara Hale, Derek Vaughn, Ravencross Holdings. Victoria's eyebrows lifted. We have enough to go to the feds, Jackson nodded slowly. Then we go. That night, as the city lights bled into the lake, Maya sat with her mother on the fire escape. Below them, taxis honked and laughter drifted from a bar. But up here, the air was quiet. They called again, Denise said softly. Told me to make you stop. Said they can make your school records disappear. Her mother studied her daughter's face. Fear, determination, a strange calm. You've got your grandfather's fire, she said finally. Just promise me you'll live through it. Maya smiled faintly. I will. Inside Hale Tower, Jackson looked out over the city that had once worshipped him. Tomorrow would bring subpoenas, headlines, chaos. But for the first time in years, he didn't feel fear. He felt clarity. The girl they had all overlooked was about to bring down giants. The morning sky over Chicago was gray and heavy, like the city itself was holding its breath. Outside the federal courthouse, reporters swarmed the marble steps. Cameras flashed. Headlines blared across phone screens. Hale Investments fraud scandal explodes teen whistleblower and CEO unite against corporate conspiracy. Inside, the air was thick with tension, coffee and quiet murmurs of power. Maya Williams sat in the second row, flanked by her mother on one side and attorney Victoria Chan on the other. She wore a plain navy blazer, her hair in neat braids, her eyes steady despite the storm outside. A few rows ahead sat Jackson Hale, shoulders squared, gaze fixed forward. Across the aisle, Derek Vaughn and Clara Hale. He didn't look at her. Not once. When Judge Monroe entered, the room rose in silence. The sound of the gavel echoed like thunder. Court is now in session, she announced. The prosecution began with precision. Victoria Chan stepped to the front, voice calm but sharp. Your Honor, this case is not just about money. It's about manipulation hidden in ink. It's about those who believed their status made them untouchable. Until a 16-year-old girl read the fine print. Every eye in the room shifted toward Maya. Clara's jaw clenched. Derek Vaughn leaned back, smirking faintly. Victoria began her presentation. Slides of documents, timelines, signatures, wire transfers, all leading back to Ravencross Holdings. The deception was elegant. Beautiful, even. The kind of fraud that required intellect and complete moral absence. Each merger, Victoria said, pointing to the screen, followed the same pattern. Vaughn Global inserted a liability clause. Partner firms collapsed. Assets rerouted offshore. The beneficiaries? She clicked again. Derek Vaughn, Clara Hale, Ravencross Holdings. A ripple moved through the courtroom. Jackson's fingers tightened around his pen. He hadn't realized until this moment how much of his life's work had been built on lies dressed as contracts. After lunch recess, the judge called the next witness. Miss Maya Williams. Maya rose. Her heart pounded, but her steps were sure. When she took the oath, her voice didn't shake. Victoria began gently. Maya, could you tell the court how you became involved in this matter? I was helping my mom clean the 27th floor, Maya said. I found a contract left in a copier. It didn't look right. So I read it. You read a corporate merger contract? Yes, ma'am. A faint murmur spread through the crowd. And what did you find? Maya met the jury's gaze head on. A trap. It said that if Hale Investments merged with Vaughn Global, every legal problem after that would be their fault. Not Vaughn's, Victoria nodded. And how did you know that wasn't normal? I've read enough to know when something's written to confuse people. My granddad taught me that the truth usually hides in the parts no one reads. Laughter flickered softly in the back row. Even the judge smiled faintly. Victoria stepped closer. Maya, why did you speak up? You were 16. You had no reason to risk your job. The courtroom fell silent. Maya's answer came quiet but clear as glass. Just because I clean your floors doesn't mean I don't see the dirt. The words landed like a hammer. Even Clara's face cracked for a split second. Guilt, fury, maybe both. Then came the cross-examination. Vaughn's attorney, a sharp man in a gray suit, approached the stand. Miss Williams, he began smoothly, you're not trained in business law, are you? No, sir. Then you'd agree it's possible you misinterpreted that clause? Maya met his gaze. It's possible. But then Mr. Hale's legal team read it, and they said I was right. A few people chuckled quietly. The lawyer pressed on. You consider yourself an expert in corporate policy? No, Maya said. But I can read, and I can tell when something's designed to trick people who don't have lawyers. The attorney frowned, flustered. So you're implying— I'm implying, she interrupted, that the truth doesn't need a title to make it real. The courtroom murmured again. Victoria smiled slightly. The judge hit her own. When Jackson Hale took the stand, the room leaned forward. He was composed but worn, the lines of sleepless nights carved deep into his face. Mr. Hale, Victoria began, you built this company from nothing. What made you believe Maya's warning? Jackson's eyes softened. Because she spoke without an agenda. Without greed. Everyone else in that room had something to gain if I signed that paper. She had everything to lose. And she still spoke. He paused, then looked at the jury. I realized I'd surrounded myself with people who served their wallets, not their conscience, and it took a janitor's daughter to remind me what integrity looks like. Finally, Clara Hale was called. She walked to the stand like a statue, perfectly dressed, perfectly silent. Victoria didn't smile. Mrs. Hale, you were present when the merger was proposed? Yes. And you supported it? Of course, Victoria clicked a button on her tablet. The speakers crackled to life. He won't question it, not if I push at the right time. And if he does? Then we remind him what he has to lose. The audio recording filled the room. Clara's voice. Derek's voice. Plotting. The color drained from Clara's face. Would you like to explain this, Mrs. Hale? Victoria asked softly. Clara stared straight ahead, lips trembling. I didn't mean for it to go that far, she whispered. I thought if I pushed the deal through, he'd never find out. And when Maya exposed it? Clara's voice cracked. I wanted her gone because she saw everything I was hiding. It took the jury less than 4 hours. When they returned, the air in the courtroom felt electric. On the count of corporate fraud and conspiracy, the foreman said, we find the defendants guilty. On the count of financial tampering and obstruction of justice, guilty. And on the count of attempted embezzlement, guilty. Derek Vaughn's smirk vanished. Clara's head bowed, tears smudging her mascara. The judge's gavel struck 3 times. 10 years federal prison. No parole for the first 7. Maya exhaled for what felt like the first time in months. Victoria placed a steady hand on her shoulder. You did it, kid. Outside, the cameras waited. Reporters shouted questions. Maya didn't answer them all. Just one. What do you want people to remember from this case? She looked straight into the nearest camera lens. That truth doesn't depend on your title, and justice doesn't care how clean your shoes are. Weeks later, Hale Investments didn't collapse. It transformed. The marble lobby was still the same, but the energy was different. Lighter. Honest. At a press conference, Jackson stood beside Maya and Victoria. Today, he said, we launched the Maya Williams Fellowship, a scholarship for young minds who see what others overlook. Applause rose like thunder. Cameras flashed. Maya stood quietly, smiling faintly. She didn't crave fame, just fairness. That evening, long after the building emptied, Jackson sat in his office staring at the skyline. On his desk was a small brass plaque that read, Truth isn't loud, but it lasts. Beside it, a photo. Maya and Eli from the Foundation's first youth event. Both laughing mid-shot. Maya had come by earlier, leaving an envelope. Inside, her college acceptance letter. Columbia University, full scholarship. He smiled to himself. The world had almost buried her under silence, and now she was shaping it with her voice. As he stood to leave, he looked once more at the city lights. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But somewhere out there, a 16-year-old girl had proved that courage could outshine corruption, and that one truth, spoken at the right time, could rewrite everything.